Hi everyone, I'm Mikhail. I'm in my garage and I got to make some more charred material for my Flint and Steel, and I figured, hey, let's have a discussion over what it takes to make suitable material for Flint and Steel fires. What do you think? Ow! Hot. Before we get started, I just want to say I actually don't like Charcloth very much. It works great, but my favorite charred material for Flint and Steel is charred Punky wood. This stuff is like styrofoam. It's really lightweight. I mean, you can see how I can just dig my thumbnail into it. This is probably cottonwood or box elder. I don't remember exactly, but if you can find it, grab it. And then all you got to do is get a piece that fits in your tin or your tinder box and toast it. You can toast it with a lighter. You can hold it over a fire like a marshmallow. You can, use a torch. But all you got to do is burn it and then close the tin to smother it, and it's ready to go. In order to light it, you switch hands. So normally you would put your Charcloth in your on the stone, and then you strike the steel against the stone. We're going to do the opposite. So now I'm holding the steel in my other hand, and I'm going to strike the stone against it to drop the spark onto the piece of charred punkwood. Takes a little bit of practice, but we already got a coal. Not super big, but it works. So now I can take another piece of this punky wood and hold it against that little coal. And now I have another ember. I can put this in my tinder nest and then close my tin, preserving my main source of ignition. See? So what is charred cloth? Well, as the name implies, it's charred cloth. But more specifically, it's charred cotton cloth. At least generally, that's what people make it out of. What does cotton have in common with punky wood? Well, they're both very porous and airy. It has a very fine matrix of fibers, and that's really important because there's very few natural unprocessed materials that will take a spark from flint and steel. But once this is properly toasted and turned to carbon, then those little air pockets in it make it perfect to catch one of those delicate sparks. It has plenty of air, and that's what makes it smolder so very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cotton. These are just like cotton makeup removers. I'm going to put them in my tin. And what this tin does is it prevents oxygen from getting to the cotton on the inside, which would just let it burn up. Instead, we're going to heat it up, and it's going to cook. All the volatile gases that are in that material are going to come out from the little cracks and crevices in the tin as smoke. And once it's done smoking, then I can have a reasonable assurance that what's left on the inside is just carbon. We're basically making like a charcoal briquette, but out of cotton. It's the same process with the wood. It's the same process with all sorts of other natural materials. I mean, think about it. You got thistle heads and cattail fluff and the inner pith on all sorts of different plants. So don't think that you're just limited to having to cut up your jeans or cut up your old t-shirts. The only thing that's critical is that it is some sort of porous and light natural material that can be charred. Now prepare the souffle. There we go. We've got it going low and slow. I mean, this is my forge, and so, it's probably not the best way to do this, but it certainly works. Notice the flames coming out of the tin. That is actually the smoke that is being driven out of the cotton by the heat from my forge here, and it is burning once it gets outside the tin and has plenty of oxygen to mix. When that flame dies, then I know that the smoke is done, and what's left inside is just charred cotton cloth. Let's flip this pancake, shall we? Make sure that it cooks evenly on both sides. You can overcook your charcloth. It gets real brittle Doesn't take a spark real easy, so be mindful of that. I found that as soon as that flame dies, you don't want it in there any longer. See, it's almost done, and that's it. So that cotton is done. I can now take it out. Set it there to cool. You want to make sure that the tin is completely cool to the touch. If I were to open it right now, it's still hot enough that as soon as that material in there got a taste of oxygen, it would burst into flame immediately and ruin the whole batch. So take your time, go get a drink of water or something, but let it cool. All cooled off. Here is that charred cloth. Remember that wad of cotton? See how much it shrank down? You know, there's a lot to be said about how much smoke there is in something, but let's try it out. So we'll take a small piece. I'll close that. And I got my flint or stone, chert, whatever. And I will place it. I like to place it where there's a concavity on the rock, so I can put it right about there. And then I hold it kind of at an upward angle so that when I bring the striker down, it'll bounce the sparks that direction. And so let's see if we're lucky. Let's try this. There we are. We got a nice little coal. And there you have it. Charred cotton cloth material. And I remember it was just those cotton pads. But go ahead and try other fabrics like jeans and t-shirts, because all those different cotton fabrics, they have different weaves, different thread counts and so on, and they might behave a little bit differently. My favorite cotton material to make charcloth out of is muslin cotton cloth. You can pick it up by the yard for a few bucks at any fabric store, and I found that it makes a very tough charred cloth, but it still takes a spark readily. It's one of the best materials I found for making charcloth. But that being said, all we're doing is we're taking natural materials, whether they've been woven and processed, or you could just find them out in the field, shoving them in a container and cooking them without oxygen to make, char stuff. So don't think that you're limited to kind of the recipe that everybody uses with, you take your cotton shirt and put it in a can and poke a hole in the top. You understand the principles, so get a little bit creative. It'll open up a whole lot more options for you. In any case, hope you enjoyed that. Hope it was informational. If you got any questions, feel free to ask them. I may be able to answer them. But in the meantime, I think we can all agree that Flint and Steel is pretty cool. And yeah, party on.